Welcome to the How Aston Villa Won podcast, where we relive the glory years of Aston Villa. Okay, yes. Hello. Welcome to this, the third episode of How Aston Villa Won the League. I am your host. My name is Martin. I'm joined today. I'll try that again. And I am joined today by a new co-host. Everybody, welcome, Af.
Hello. How are we doing, everyone? Well,
I'm
everyone.
good, mate.
You.
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm all right, mate. All right. Just finding parenting. Oh, it's tough, isn't it? Oh, yeah.
It's not easy.
It is hard.
Yeah. Are you settling down still? Getting ready after bedtime?
We're good. Yeah. The little one is hopefully going to sleep very, very soon. We will see how that goes.
That's true.
So yeah,
If not,
we'll plow on. We'll plow on. We'll try and get as much recorded as we can before she kicks off again. Yeah.
Or she can join in. I've not had 3 hosts yet. That'd be new.
Yeah. I mean, currently the vocabulary she has extended by 100% to birds and other noises as well. Yeah. So birds and no as well. No.
No and birds.
No and birds. Yeah.
Not even dad or mum.
No, not yet. No, not even that. No.
Okay. Oh well, there's time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. We'll invite her back in a couple of years when she's ready.
We could try. We could give it a go.
Yeah. Af, right. Let's introduce yourself a little bit here. Myself and Ant, when we started on the first podcast, talked about what made us. Did you start out as a Villa fan?
So it's my dad, really. My dad, he bought me. Well, growing up, I wasn't really as into football. In my early years, we're talking sort of when I was like 5 or 6, sort of around that time. I was more into F1, really. I was absolutely obsessed with Nigel Mansell, Ayrton Senna, and then my dad bought me a football shirt, and it just happened to be a Villa kit, one of these fake ones around about the 92 season, one with the drawstring. That one.
Yeah.
That one with Mighty Copiers, this first season of the Premier League. That one, and he bought me a knockoff version of that, and I was just hooked since. Like pretty much every single game, I'd be glued to the radio listening to 11:52 and BRMB and classic. Tom Ross, Goal Zone, the Goal, all of that sort of stuff, and I was just absolutely obsessed. I couldn't get enough of it. So my first game actually wasn't with my dad because he worked abroad a lot, and it was with my uncle, and he took me to Villa Forest. And I think it's a badge of honour that every single person I know, their first Villa game, it happened to be a defeat, didn't it? And mine was no different. We lost 2-0 to Forest. Yeah. Earl Barrett gave a pen away after about probably 7 seconds, which I think is some sort of record. I just don't even know how that's possible, really. But then since then, it's just been, I would say, through peaks and troughs. But it's been more of a mixed bag than any other club, I think.
It's been a bit trophy. Extremes. Let's call it.
It's been trophy, but then but then there's been absolute moments, like individual moments where everything just gains meaning, and there's a reason why we do what we do.
Yeah. That was quite profound.
Oh, sorry, mate. I mean, I'm a sort of philosophy and ethics teacher, so every now and again, you'll have a little bit of deep thinking, I suppose, which I can bring to the podcast, maybe. Yeah. But we'll see. The wife's looking at me now, like, "What the hell are you talking about?" So I better shut up.
No. I appreciate all of that. That's a bit of a journey, that. Considering you've gone on to become a season ticket holder from that less auspicious beginning.
Yeah, so my first season ticket was the first year of Martin O'Neill. So it tied in quite nicely with that. Whereas before, going to uni, I mean, this is how much of a Villa fan I was. I didn't even care what I studied or where I studied, so long as it was within a commutable distance to Villa Park. It was almost like, that's where Villa play. I'm moving to Birmingham. It doesn't matter what, it doesn't matter what happens. That's what I'm going to be doing pretty much every other Saturday. and so for the most part, I was just getting tickets on like week by week, and then eventually just thought, just what am I doing? I'm probably spending more money on the Villa without, just getting. I might as well just get a season ticket. So first season ticket was Martin O'Neill's first year, and that was when I thought, oh, we're going places. We're actually doing something.
False Dawn.
Yeah.
And since then, I've never spoke to a woman called Dawn.
No.
Just,
Yeah. First of many Office references there.
Yeah, it's true.
Absolutely, yeah. So,
lovely stuff. No, well, cheers to that, mate. But are you ready to get started for the episode proper?
Let's go. Let's do it.
Smash you. Okay. Well, for those of you just joining us, why? It's episode 3. But just in case, I'm going to recap on who we are and what we're doing. So this is the How Aston Villa Won podcast, and we are this season looking at in more detail how Aston Villa won the league in 1981. We went back, we introduced ourselves, and then we talked about key figures that helped build the club up to where it is in 1980 in William McGregor, Doug Ellis, and Ron Saunders. This week, we are talking about the squad itself. Now, quite famously, only 14 players were used across the season from this squad.
That's mad, isn't it? That's crazy. Think about that in today's circumstance. Telling someone like Pep Guardiola you can only use 14 players. It's insane. I mean, we might be able to keep a couple of them, like our Super Jack and that. They might be able to stay, because
he wouldn't play, and this is why they're down things like the amount of people we can loan out, because now you can't hoard players, because that's exactly what's happened. Rather than actually paying the squad and keeping it tight, people are hoarding players so they can compete on 4 fronts. And this is what we'll find as we talk about this season. We win the league, but we don't get very far in any other cup. So, and again, spoilers, but when you go into the 82 season, when we win the European Cup, it detracts from the league. So it's hard to fight on all fronts and to keep players happy. And it certainly wasn't how it is now.
It is. I mean, you see City and Liverpool just stockpiling and then dominating, especially with the 5 subs rule, which we might chat about. I mean, initially I thought that was a bad thing. Now with the youth that we've got, I know it's not a current podcast, so I better keep stum. But the youth we've got, I think they'll get an opportunity. Like Carney and Tim. That Tim.
The thing is, I suppose, if you kept a smaller, tighter squad and then you just dropped in the odd younger player, give them a run out, so either coming on as a sub or you only exchange one player rather than they tend to now for like cups maybe, and they play a completely changed side. When instead you just drip feed the odd player, okay, you're going to play it right back today.
Absolutely,
just give him a game, and then at least the rest of the squad is tight. And if he has a bad game or he's struggling, pull him off. The experienced player back on.
I wouldn't pull him off, but I'd substitute him maybe. But
either or, to each their own. No judgment here. Right. On that note, let's launch into the squad. I'm going to go position by position. Talk a bit about the players we've got, maybe where they come from, how much they've cost, any little facts I've got. And in between, you can jump in, make any comments.
I'll try and do it. Yeah, I'll try and jump in as and when.
Yeah. To be fair, Alf, this is more, I suppose, for us that are going through it for the first time, who didn't live through it. And that's who we're thinking of, in terms of listeners. When we go through, it's more about knowing who our key players are, knowing who the squad is, that when we go on to review the season, we know about who these players are, what their positions are, little things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we good?
We good. Cool.
Right. Goalkeepers. Gotta start back. Important.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a goalkeeper. On my Twitter profile, I still hold the title of pound for pound greatest five-a-side goalkeeper, probably of all time.
Yeah.
I had a bit of a reputation at like if you go to Star City goals, they'll still talk about my performances.
Yeah.
But now I've just got old and fat. So
it was after Cats. Now it's after Fat.
It is after Fat. Yeah, it really is. I mean, I might have to change the Twitter profile for that. Yeah. Cheers. Thanks
Sorry, mate.
Oh, that's good. It's just words, isn't it? They don't hurt.
Well, not as much as sticks and stones.
Exactly. Well,
moving on.
Talking of words, goalkeeper number one.
Yes, goalkeepers. So our number one at this season, at this point, was Jimmy Rimmer, who was a very experienced goalkeeper. He had played previously for Manchester United and Arsenal, and actually had the misfortune of being on the bench for the '68 European Cup final, as it happened when Man United won. So
I wouldn't say that's his only misfortune, if we're honest.
well, that's what I'm saying.
We're going to avoid the
spoilers for next year. I mean, in a sense, but most people surely know that story.
Yeah,
It's just quite interesting, isn't it, that twice he ends up not really playing in a cup final.
true. But in fairness to him, he really does keep the back line, certainly the back hole, really clean. And
Jimmy Rimmer, yeah.
Jimmy Rimmer, yeah.
I didn't know you knew so much about him, but clearly you're an expert. So
yeah, well, yeah. You know, I think people get carried away by the name. I mean, come on, let's not be childish. You know, yes,
forbid.
It means. Yeah, but as a goalkeeper, I mean, well, bit of a spoiler because obviously, like yourself, I think we watched the BT Sport documentary. But how mad is that? You're in the biggest game of your career, probably of your life, almost certainly. Though he was, interestingly, a sub in the '68. Was it '68?
Yeah.
Final for United. And yeah, you come off. But the maddest thing about that is that he didn't tell anyone that he was injured.
No,
like Spink, he went in cold. He was looking around, going, "Oh, who are they gonna bring on?" It's like, well, it's gonna be you, mate. You're the only goalkeeper we got. So, but then again, part of me thinks that was inspired because if he did tell him, if he did say the night before, say, "Nige, I've got, I'm feeling dodgy. I don't think I'll make it tomorrow." Then imagine the amount of nerves that Spinksy would have had. Maybe it was a good thing.
I don't think his reasoning was that selfless. I think it's more the fact that he really wanted to play. He was probably spurred on by the fact he missed out in the final previously with United and did not want the chance to miss out again. So he's thought, right, okay, I'll persist. I'll make out like I'm okay and I've gotten over my little knock. And, it hasn't paid off. I guess we're just fortunate that Spink was up to the job.
But I'm sure we'll come on to that in more detail. But it's just
that's true.
It's just a mad anecdote that when I watched it, I thought, "Whoa!" Because as a keeper, part of me thinks you need to know as part of that number one kind of attitude. You need to know where you stand. You need to be comfortable in terms of you playing week in, week out. And obviously, if you get injured, then someone steps up. But But to not know, 15 minutes into the game, right, and like the footage I've seen, he just gets his gloves, shakes his head, and starts jogging off.
Yeah,
so like, I think
I'm done. Right, lads,
mate. Where you going, mate? You're right. You have to get some kibbeling from like the local Dutch fish market. What are you doing?
Good lads. Whilst we're here,
Yeah.
I mean, that's it.
Anyway.
Sometimes cometh the hour, cometh the man.
Mm.
So, move on to more goalkeepers. Before I get to Spink, actually, I'll break it up. The third keeper we had was Mark Kendall, who at this point in the season was 20 years of age, from Nuneaton, and was a Villa youth player. So he was our more inexperienced backup keeper who we had on the books just in case. Not much to say about that. Nigel Spink, then. Go on.
There's, I'll be honest, that's the first time I've ever heard of him.
Yeah.
And I regard myself as a bit of a Villa nut, but that Mark Kendall.
Yeah, Mark Kendall.
Did he go on to anything after Villa, or do we know anything about him?
Well,
became a club landlord,
not from my research. I've kept it simple because I've got a whole squad to get through, and he doesn't play clearly because we only played 14 players. So, and that's I just mentioned him because there's not much to say about goalkeepers, so I've thrown him in.
Well, there's lots to say about goalkeepers. That it's a typical outfielder job. That is, goalkeepers are the bedrock of a team.
Okay, granted, I'm not here to quibble, and argue about the role of a goalkeeper. More specifically, in terms of our squad for discussion on a podcast, I've got our main keeper in Jimmy Rimmer and Spink, who's kind of only worth mentioning because he's going to come up down the line.
Yeah. Because I imagine. Well, did he play many games in that league campaign at all?
Who, Spink?
If Spink, yeah.
Not that I've noticed because I think the 14 include the League Cup and the Cup runs. So he again comes to as a youth lad like Mark Kendall. So it's funny, interesting actually that there were youth lads on the books, and actually Ron Saunders was known for allowing one or two lads to come up and break through to supplement the players he brought in. Spinks himself was quite young, signed in 77 from Chelmsford. And again, it's interesting because he joined the same year as Rimmer, who also came in 77, which is when we last won that League Cup. So that second League Cup with Saunders. And, that's why Rimmer was brought in for that experience. And Spinks was in, and had to wait from the age of 18, had to wait 5 years for his break that we've talked about earlier in that European Cup win. So 5 years, he had to be patient, biding his time under Jimmy. So
that's the keepers.
Biding your time sometimes, patience pays off.
Yeah, I mean, they say that the peak for a keeper is very different to an outfield player, isn't it? It's more, like late 20s, early 30s, and he plays like, I mean, Shilton was going on till he was. I think I vaguely remember seeing Shilton in one of the, it's Leyton Orient for a bit. I think at the end of his career, a vague recollection of seeing him at like Notts County or something, and thinking, oh my god, like that is like literally granddad. In net. Like, surely there's some sort of cruelty there. You can't be doing that to an old man.
Imagine just weeding him out and just popping off. Go on, you got one more game in you.
Yeah.
No, lads, you really can't. No, you can't. Go on.
Go on.
You've got no one else. No one else wants to go in. Go on.
But yeah.
I suppose. I mean, the further back you go in the positions, the longer you can last. And I suppose it's more about reading the game. So therefore, you preempt a lot of stuff. Rather than young and exuberant, it's fine. But launching into tackles and giving away fouls or whatever it might be, is going to cost you. Whereas, say, that seasoned veteran head probably wins you more games, saves more, stops more goals in the long run. But that's our goalkeepers. So there's our 3 goalkeepers.
Cool.
Of course, really, it's only Rimmer that we'll hear from talking to the season. But defenders now. So I'm going to start with Eamon Deasy, who at the start of this season is 22, and he's an Irish left back.
Eamon Deasy, how you doing there?
Yeah. Is that it? Have you got any more?
That's all I got. Just how you doing there, Eamon? You right there?
Yeah.
You good?
Yeah.
You gonna play left back or right back tonight?
Yeah, Belfast. He's actually signed from Galway Rovers. He's
that's
Galway,
is that the other one?
Sorry?
Because you're sort of Irish, is that the other one?
It's the other one. Yeah, it's the southern one.
Yeah.
Republic of Ireland.
Okay.
That's the one.
Okay.
But funny enough, Galway is where my nanny's from, and there's a stadium named there after him.
Oh.
Such as his impact, making it as a professional. So signed from Galway Rovers in February of 79, and he only got into the Villa because he wrote to Villa requesting trials and just said, right, come and see me. And that's how back in the day. That's how informal it could be.
Wow.
Come and see me play. I'm a great player.
Oh, my word.
Villa. Signed Eamon.
Isn't that what sort of 10-year-olds do now? To like the sign brigade at Villa. I mean, bless them. It's a great story, but please, can I have your shirt? And it sounds like Eamon did the same thing. Just please, Villa, can I play?
Please play. Please.
I'll bring my own ball.
I suppose about making your opportunities, you can see it that way. Entrepreneurial. I know, like these days, you sometimes do see. I mean, there's other stories actually down Villa folklore about players who got agents, someone to get like a video clip put together and showed it to the Villa. They've been signed and then been shocking. And the individual I'm thinking of, I can't name now, I can't off the top of my head, but it's gone on up until more recent years where obviously it's all about scouting, it's all about analytics, and therefore you wouldn't get caught with trousers down quite the same way.
Yeah, true.
A lot of chances, and why not? Worked out for Eamon, who does get a smattering of appearances, so he's a bit of a backup player really, but he does do his part, and actually started in the first game due to an injury to Alan Evans.
Talking of, mad anecdote here. Have you seen the film Kaiser or read the book Kaiser? So you might think it's about a German player. It's not. It's a book about a Brazilian con artist. Incredible story, incredible film as well. And it essentially, just as you say, managed to compile different, video clips back in the day, got trials, and then managed to convince people to sign him. But he never had a kick. He never played football. It was every time that he was due to make a debut, he'd intentionally get injured. He'd go on the training ground, rolling around. And he was just living the life on Copacabana Beach. He played for all the Brazilian clubs because he was just in it for the lifestyle.
Yeah.
Whereas Eamon, fair play to him, he, even though Villa was his pen pal, he actually delivered rather than just claim the money and the girls and what have you not.
Well, yeah, it wasn't really that sort of lifestyle back then. Although they do allude to it, and they talk about the final. And in that documentary, they talk about, well, they don't talk about a certain night in celebration afterwards.
Mm.
So we'll come back to that. Moving on, Alan Evans, I've already referenced him. So at this point, he's 24, and he started as a forward. And actually, it's interesting. You don't think of it, but there's quite a number of defenders for strikers. And I think the idea is that they're quite good at reading the ball. So you think about a striker, the ball might come over the top, certainly, in days gone by, and you need to get your head on it. And it's kind of the same skill and application for a defender. So he was signed from Dunfermline Athletic and joining the Villa in 1977 as well. So you can see the nucleus of this team really forms about 4 or 5 years before, with a few of these players. Before we, culminate in certainly the European Cup, even for this league win, there's about 3 years of gelling time and of putting all the parts together. Nicknamed Psycho, a little bit like
it's a good name. It's a good name. You like if you got a defender called Psycho, obviously Stuart Pearce as well.
Yeah,
like it's a good name. You're not going to go anywhere near, or try not to go anywhere near him, are you?
Well,
it
strikes fear just hearing the name. You get
It does.
really excited because it just conjures up sort of images of people coming and nutting you.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's the idea that he was brave player, launching into stuff, and fans respect that.
Yeah, and like you say, it's exactly what you need. That era of football, certainly, yes, there were skillful players, but ultimately, in terms of tactically, very much winger, beat your man, get the ball in the middle, striker, smash it in, defender, try and smash it away. Very basic. No sort of false nines or counter pressing or Geigen pressing. It seemed quite basic at the time.
Yeah,
but
I think there's an honesty to that kind of football.
Yeah,
though.
absolutely.
An earnestness.
Absolutely. I think when needs must, as they say, and especially when you're in a title run, results absolutely is all that matters.
Yeah.
Even now, like at Villa, we can play like an absolute drain for 95 minutes, but if we win it in the 96th off someone's bum, going in off like 4 deflections, I'm happy as Larry.
Well, they all count.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They all count. I'll take it. Right, moving on then. I'll go to Ken McNaught, who was Alan Evans' partner, the first choice pairing for centre-back. And he was another Scottish player, signed from Everton in 77 as well, after impressing, although losing, in the League Cup final to Villa. I think that was the year where they had a couple of finals to try and actually get a winner. And at that point was our record signing at £200,000. So though he won the league with Everton in 77, he impressed us in our cup game, so bought him. And he formed a solid partnership with Evans. And again, Ken McNaught didn't necessarily have the same speed as Alan, but he read the game well and certainly marshaled that defence. So the two of them became the bedrock, like you say, with Jimmy at the back for our team. And again, even to this day, he's quite a vocal and leading part of the old boys. So for the last several years, I saw them do a talk at the town hall, and it's him really that leads on a lot of that, or has led on it historically, keeping it going, celebrate it. So
they do a lot of the whole suite as well on match day. There's always a few of the old boys sort of that have do a little Q&A or little sort of fan little fan chat and stuff. And like the word I use, gentlemen, just absolute integrity, and just absolute gents. Always got time for people.
Yeah, but I suppose these are different types of players, aren't they? They're from a different time era. They're not like you referred to before, just looking for the lifestyle. They're not, Jack Grealish getting out, getting trounced on the islands. They're just working men that did good, in essence. So moving on to fullbacks now, got some more fullbacks after DC. Colin Gibson was only 20 at the time. And again, another left back, but again, came up from the Villa youth team and broke through in 78. And again, was just getting regular appearances, and they were competing with well, Gibson was competing rather with Swain for that left back.
Yeah.
Chiefly. Mm.
Well, Swaney. So, yeah, when
You're jumping now.
I am jumping. I'm jumping.
Go on, do
Sorry,
it.
mate.
Do it, whatever, mate.
I'll go for it, mate. I'll jump like
You're an
food.
animal.
I'm gonna. So
Happy days.
Swaney, his son. I used to play with his son at uni.
Oh yeah.
Absolute top lad, and you can tell he had his dad skill as well. You know, just so calm and cultured on the ball. And it was mad that people just didn't know how famous his dad was, because like his dad's won 2 European Cups, one with Villa and one with Forest, I believe, wasn't it?
Well, we signed him from Chelsea in '79.
Yeah.
So I don't think you were in it with Forest, because those timelines don't line up.
Oh, I might be wrong, but either way, he's won the European Cup with Villa.
Yeah.
And like we got lucky with him as well, because he went off to coach one of the England youth teams, sort of while I was at uni. So he used to get just loads of old England stash, and it was stash that was worn at I'm gonna say the 2006 World Cup. Yeah. So all that stash there. So somewhere, you know, upstairs, or back at my mum's house, I've got like loads of England goalkeeper shirts, goalkeeper shorts, loads of England training stash that was all worn by England players that were coming through. And yeah, so that's my Kenny Swain.
No, I like it. You provided more than me there.
Fair enough.
I mean,
not many's got like an anecdote for every player, but you know, I'll pick my moments. Left back. Yeah.
Just pop up.
Exactly.
Pop in the box. Boom.
Sessions.
So I've briefly mentioned Colin Gibson. So he was young guy, broken through with the youth, competed for fullback. Kenny Swain, though, a bit older, 28, a bit more seasoned. And there weren't too many players brought in at an older age by Saunders. He often moved them on. He didn't mind older players, like to couple of them, sprinkling, but again was willing to give youth that chance. So he was relegated with Chelsea in '79 and really leapt and took the chance. And again, you know, it's an opportunity here where he was taken as a striker and pushed back to fullback because, you know, Saunders was using a more full-on system. He wanted a really fit, healthy, aggressive attacking team. I was
going to say, it's quite interesting scouting. Just like it sounds like everyone's a striker, and then they just sort of mould them back. You know, like sort of the opposite of Dion Dublin, really. Yeah.
Okay. I guess that thing. I suppose, as you start to go down, like you think I can't run as much. I'm going to go further down the pitch. There's more watching.
Yeah.
So it could be a bit of that, but I think it's also the idea that, well, we know you can ping the ball, but actually there's plenty of people who can do that. If you've got other skills, then let's use them elsewhere. You know, if you can cross them over, let's put it in the wing or as a fullback, less running. Yeah, you can still get the crossing.
There was that old adage with Shearer that he used to say at Newcastle that and Blackburn even, that Alan Shearer was the best crosser of the ball because he knew exactly where he wanted it as a striker. He knew exactly where he would want that as a striker. So I can understand the logic. It's just so different now, isn't it? You know, so different back then. You know, but anyway, carry on. We were only defenders, didn't we? Oh God,
yeah, we are.
Go on.
We are.
Whoa. Cool on.
Well, that's okay. No, I didn't think we'd have this much to talk about with you. Going where the going's good. So last one to mention for defenders is Gary Williams. So another almost local lad. He's from Wolverhampton, and another one that came through the youth and reserve ranks in about 75, breaking in, making his debut against Everton in September of 1978 as a substitute. And he was the one competing with Colin Gibson for the left back. So Williams and Gibson competed for left back. Swain was our right back, and then DC was kind of our utility player. Then he would drop in whenever needed. So that there is our defenders. Moving on now, midfielders. This is where it starts to get exciting. This is a bit more.
Here we go.
Des Bremner, 28, another Scot. So it's quite a few Scots and a couple of Scousers. I was
going to say, there's so many Scottish people, it's ridiculous. So where's Bremner from? Where did we nick him from?
Where did he hail from? Well, I'm not actually sure. I only know he was signed from Hibernian in 1979.
The heebie-jeebies.
Hey, that's them. From Edinburgh.
We're going to need subtitles for this part of the pod, but that's not going to work.
But
when it's an audio function.
Fans listen to appreciate it nonetheless.
Aye. Well, we've
Or
got to
they'll be
stop there because
cursing us.
I literally speak like this all night, so I better stop. Anyway, so
But it's fine until you trip up, and then
yeah,
you're like, oh, it's done for now.
I-
So another Scott, as I said,
another one.
another one. That's at least three.
Aye.
Aye. And he was signed in '79, with Saunders saying that he was the most underrated player he ever signed. He's not one taking the plaudits. He's not Morley on the runs. He's not Mortimer in the middle or Cowan's making the passes. He's
Yeah.
not getting the goals like With goes on to do and like Shaw did for those few years. But I think he did a lot of the hard work and did a lot of the running.
Would you say it's the latter day McGinn or a McDouglas Lewis maybe?
Possibly. I mean, things that he played on the right, but I think it's quite fluid. I think with those middle central players, and could drift in. I just think he was a hard-working player, and that was very Saunders. And he
Yeah.
appreciated the effort, a little bit like Martin O'Neill throwing people into left back or right back. Carlos Correa comes to mind.
Yes.
And put him into a different position because like, I trust you as a player. I don't like my fullbacks. I'm going to shove you there. So
Yeah.
Des was that dependable player for Saunders in some ways. So
always 7, 8
again,
out of 10.
Sorry,
7, 8 out of 10 every week, and
Yeah.
that's worth the weight in gold. They are.
well, you know where you stand. You know what you get out of them. So he even played at fullback and centre back at times because Saunders knew he could trust him to do a job, even if it wasn't in the midfield. So yeah, that's our first midfielder. Second one, I've already mentioned him. Now this really is a bit of a club legend, Gordon Cowans.
Oh.
Yeah, Sid.
Oh,
Sid.
right. Where do we start with him?
Well,
I mean, I don't have many anecdotes apart from going to Villa Park because for some sort of venture capitalist, it was weird. I think they were selling sort of like real estate. And so me and the mate from uni, we just went in suits just to pretend that we were buying real estate. When obviously we couldn't afford a pot in. And but part of it was Sid Cowans was there, and you got a free tour of Villa Park. So while everyone else was trying to buy sort of Spanish villas and whatever it was, we were just racking his brains really and chatting to him. And again, an absolute gent. But
yeah,
I think it doesn't do him justice in terms of. I think you got a few England caps, and in terms of the older generation of Villa fan who had the privilege of seeing him week in week out, that they revere him, up there with your McGraths in terms of what he could do with the football, what is passing. Yeah, what a player.
Well, this is, I think we see moments of it when we go on to review the matches and talk about the games, and there's only a handful of games really you can get footage from, but you can really see the quality of that team, and there really is a lot of quality. I think it's easy. We've joked about what football was like with the muddy pitches and so on up until the 90s, where things get increasingly actually professional. It seems to feel, but Cowans is certainly someone that gets referenced a lot, as you say, that gets mentioned, and you see he'll turn, you see his pass, and spoken in almost reverential terms. And like a lot of the lads in this team, didn't get much in the way of England recognition. And I genuinely think that's because we weren't a saucy team. I don't think we were favoured.
Yeah, 100%.
No, I'd say Liverpool, Man U, some of these names.
100%. I think, was it Ron Greenwood at the time? I might be completely wrong there. Like I say, I mean, this is before my time even, but there seemed to be a lot of your West Hams and your Tottenhams that were getting in that midfield, and Villa often get overlooked. I mean, was it Brian Little as well, the generation before? Yeah. He only had a handful of caps, and Brian Little walks on water, mate.
This is it, and fans call him that. So he walks on water. You talk about Paul McGrath being God. These are fans who've seen a lot of football and
very ecclesiastical,
top flight.
Very ecclesiastical, lots of
it is really
reverential religious terms.
Yeah, but that goes to show that, well, firstly, how much that influences our lives, even if people don't follow religion. But secondly, how important football is to people. And where they place these players. But no, I think had we had more sustained success, had the team not fallen apart and broken down with Saunders going and Ellis coming back into the club, there may have been a greater period of success and sustainability, and therefore some of these lads we've got that recognition. And we've seen ourselves now, even now, it's not necessarily form. There is more to it. Say, your Southgates and so on will say that it's not. you know, down to favouritism. I just think people stay in their mind because they're playing at that top level. They're not necessarily the best for the team, but getting that balance. But Cowans, although local legend, came from County Durham originally and was an apprentice for Villa and then turned pro in 1976. He had 3 spells at the club, actually, and then went on to coach. So he was sold and went over to, I think it was Italy, and then came back and then had a short spell again towards the end of his career. And actually, I think he had a testimonial whilst he wasn't actually playing with us. Often commented on and thought of as one of our greatest ever players. Derek Mountfield, actually, a Villa teammate later on, said that he was the best 2-footed player he'd ever played with. So even his peers would comment on his football and his ability. So you can't get higher praise than that, can you?
I mean, 2-footed players to be equally good on either foot. I mean, well, when I was playing, my left foot was just for standing on, really. And to be equally good on either foot is well, I suppose it just shows just how classy he was. And I think that the biggest accolade, I think, players like that, they always seem that they've got time, that they've got more time than anyone else, and they haven't. It's part of the perception and putting themselves in position of the pitch where they just seem to have an extra half second because they've earned that in their head. They've earned that in terms of reading the game so well. And it's one thing to read it, but then to have the technical ability to actually exploit the opposition through your technical passing. He had it all.
Well, it's again, like you say, it's even receiving the ball. You'd have to change your footing or rearrange the weight because you can take on either foot. Therefore, rather than you taking the ball and then shifting feet or the opposite way around and just move your body, you can take it whichever way it comes and then turn and face goal or whatever it is you're doing. It makes all the difference. That's why those quality players, well, that's why they're hard to come by. That's why they cost a lot of money. So moving on now, we've got captain Dennis Mortimer. Another one of the more experienced seasoned players that's in this squad and really is a leader. He's one of our Scousers, but joined from Coventry in 1975 for a fee of $175,000 and went on to make his debut in a 4-1 win on Boxing Day of that year. He was captain and driving force and played over 400 games in over a decade at Aston Villa.
There's, again, one of these names, I mean, they're all etched in folklore, and they're all going to be, these names are going to be sung long after we go from this planet, and that all action midfield, just general, is what you want, really. That absolute war horse, really, is what you want in any team.
Yeah, and things like he could do it all. He scores goals, assists, and does get stuck in, and has quite the engine on him. But that is expected from a player of Saunders, and he wouldn't just give out something like a captaincy willy-nilly. Another office reference for you.
Yeah, willy-nilly.
So he saw him at Coventry, signed him. He said at the time, he thought he was quite happy at Coventry, but saw the ambition going at Villa and made himself a staple part of that. He was joined in midfield by another Scouser, Tony Morley, who was 25 at the start of this season, and he was a bit more expensive. He cost $200,000 from Burnley in June of '79, and he was our nippy winger. And if you see him play, we'll talk about it more when we get to the clips, and I'll point people in the way of Villa Boy on YouTube to actually watch them. But you see the skill and finesse that he's got, and again, the amount of times I keep coming back to it and repeat myself, but the similarities with this sort of squad and O'Neill's squad. So this is an 80s team, and that's Forest. When O'Neill was there, it was a proper 80s team, and their setup is similar. This is the Ashley Young of the 80s.
He really is, isn't he? He really is, and also it's quite evocative. I mean, one of Ashley Young's greatest moments, was that goal at Goodison, and Morley the same, with an incredible goal. In that league campaign, which of course, like I say, we'll go into find the detail later on. But wow,
Well, again, once you've seen him play and you actually see him skip through a few players and taking players on, you can really appreciate that. Although it seems it's pre-Premier League, whatever, we still talk about Pele, we still talk about Maradona, and there's a lot of players that we still talk about in reverential terms that before our time. And I think it's worth giving these people their due as well. He was, one of the younger lads and a bit more playful, which sometimes got him in trouble, as he's mentioned in the documentaries.
Yes,
and he'd purposely rub mud on his shorts to make sure he seemed like he'd worked harder or been on the ground more. But even people like Jimmy Rimmer would pull him up because they policed themselves quite a bit. Those old boys make sure they were, the manager on the pitch and to make sure he was doing what he needed to do.
Yeah.
So move on to our forwards and our strikers.
Right then.
To round up our squad. So we've got David Geddes, who was 22 at the time and signed from Ipswich. And again, Ipswich, another successful team around this time, and probably they were the biggest competitors to ourselves in this season.
Yeah, so I suppose they were eventually, but I mean, I know that obviously they had relative European success around that time as well. But it's interesting to know if they were part of the running, like the pre-season favourites, or even indeed whether we were. I mean, you'd have your standard, your Liverpools definitely that would Liverpools and Everton's will be up there, but Ipswich, I've done a couple of away days there.
Yeah,
it's a weird place.
Anyone listening from Ipswich, you're welcome.
I mean, Ipswich and Norwich, there's a reason why they're shunted off to East Anglia. I mean, lovely, don't get me wrong, but weird. But I suppose it's similar to Forest in a way, just a provincial town punching above their weight. And so, just as soon as you said Geddes coming from Ipswich there, just wondered, in the pre-season, would there be many Ipswich fans that would be kicking off about that?
Well, I mean, it's funny you say that.
Yeah,
I mean, it's funny you say that. I mean, in terms of my research, so I've done this, and I'll go into the other clubs more as we play them throughout the season and talk a little bit about where they're at and where they've come from. But in terms of Ipswich, they finished 6th in the 78-79 season. They finished 3rd in the 79-1980 season. So the year before, they'd already come 3rd. So although you have Liverpool, perennial winners of the league and of the European Cup, as the team to look out for, Notts Forest obviously won a couple of European Cups as well. Ipswich were starting to get up there. Got
to pick you up on that. Notts Forest. Oh, I'm not that many Forest fans will be listening here, but they would know like that. Nottingham Forest, Notts County. Just if you wanted to go on a night out in Nottingham, that's all. Because you probably wouldn't get allowed in.
For saying Notts Forest, I've got to say
you just said it again. You've said it again. You can't. Forest. I mean, Forest.
To be fair, at this rate, we're going to turn into a Nottingham podcast anyway, between Ants and this extended discussion now.
Yeah, and I don't think we'll be going to Ipswich anytime soon. Because
I've just talked up their
boys.
Potential as a team and talk about how they were on the rise already themselves. But you've said what you've said now. So should we move on?
I think
keep ourselves safe.
Let's. Have we got any? How many more have we got? We got
2 more players.
2 more players. Come on then. Let's go for him.
Go on. So Gary Shaw, the only actual Brummie in the team, was 19 years of age, just a pup when we started this season. Again, came through as an apprentice in 77, with his first appearance as a sub against Bristol City, and then starting against West Brom. And although he was a promising player, unfortunately his career would be derailed and cut short by injury, really. And he'd gone to play at a much lower level then after 1983.
I mean, as the only Brummie in the team, like, just that connection you would have with the whole end at that time would be insane. I mean, that's what I mean. It's still too early for me, given what happened pretty much this time last year with our Jack.
Yeah,
I mean, we say things probably that we don't mean at the time, and we're still hurt by it. But ultimately,
like any breakup,
he's always going to be our Jack. He's always going to be our Jack, and I still believe he will come back. At some stage. Yeah, I do. I really do. Because you can't. I don't know. I mean, as a Villa fan, standing in front of the whole end, going ballistic, singing your name, that must have just such a massive impression on you. And so for Gary Shaw at that time, having that connection with the fans anyway, that must be massive. And from a fan's perspective, he was very much the poster boy, I think. But everyone wanted to be Gary Shaw. everyone, my mate Steve, I sit with, when he was growing up, everyone wanted to be Gary Shaw.
Yeah. Again,
yeah.
young, fast, scoring the goals. Yeah. Who doesn't want all that glory? And it's a local lad doing it for the club. So he'd been there, doing it for a couple of years. He played, come in as Andy Gray went out, and he made his name. Would play a similar sort of role to you've already mentioned him earlier. He Who Walks on Water, Brian Little, who actually had to retire due to injury just before this season. He was nearly bought the year before by Blues. That fell through, and it was a problem, I think, with his medical. And then, his knee gave him too much trouble, and he had to retire. He was only about mid-20s. So he'd been the golden child and the poster boy, and Gary Shaw almost replaced him, but again, only got a couple of years. But you could reference the fact that he was such a young player coming on and playing so many games, and they keep saying that nowadays, don't they? That these young players come and they burn out like a Michael Owen. Maybe that.
Yeah, maybe. I think now, I mean, it makes you wonder whether if Gary Shaw, if these players who could be transported in time to now, given sports science, medical science, all the better pitches, which we say better. I mean, they're flatter, they're easier to play on, but they're like concrete, which could even cause even more sort of knee ligament contact injuries. So it'd just be fascinating to see if careers like that could be prolonged. And we've got it right now with our Big Wes, who loads of people are written off. Horrendous injury, awful injury.
Yeah, I mean, he's gone to teams. Again, he hasn't really played.
Yeah, exactly.
So we don't really know. I mean, the rumor is
don't know.
Rumor is Wesley's going to come back to Villa to be looked at like everyone else. He's not turned up as a recording. He's not been seen at pre-season, unlike a lot of the lads who aren't playing internationals. Have turned up. So we will see.
That's sad. I mean, because I was at the Walsall away. Pretty much the first game after COVID, really, with the pre-season, and he came on then, and there were I think the general, pretty much everyone was desperate for him to score, and then I think he tried too hard because the next game was Stoke, then he got sent off after 10 seconds or something, just nothing someone. I mean. But you can understand that because of all the anger that he's had to put up with of missing, the best part of his career. Yeah, getting a move over here and then to have his knee pretty much decapitated from it. Yeah, it's gonna make you feel, I don't know. But
then like work smarter, and he's got to prove himself. But he might get a chance yet, and if not, hopefully move to the right club that'll sort him out.
Absolutely,
it's about getting your head right, isn't it? So our final player is actually the last signed player who was a then for us record signing of £500,000. He was signed in the summer there of 1980 and was described by Ron Saunders as the missing piece of the puzzle and completing his team. And I think it's part of what gave Saunders his confidence, which I'll go back to in a second. And it was the well-travelled Peter Withe, who was 29, so much more seasoned than a lot of our purchases. He was signed from Newcastle, but had previously played in the Midlands for Wolves and Blues. And at this point, he was looking to go to a club that was competing and could do something, and chose Villa over his boyhood club Everton and Leeds because he was looking to chase and win a league title because he already won one with Forest in 1978, and so knew he could get to that level. And as I previously said, in terms of Saunders, he had a team there that had partnerships all over with competition and with potential people to come in, even though he didn't necessarily use them. And he took it one game at a time, but made sure they're all fit and ready to go in pre-season. He turned to the players that pre-season and had a bit of a changing room chat, which was apparently very unlike him, and said, lads, if you can get 60 points, then you can go and win the league. Morley also said that he turned around and told them, Saunders, if we finish above Liverpool, we'll have done well. I think already he thought, well, hang on. I think this is the player to complement us. This is the striker who we haven't had since maybe Andy Gray. And I think we've got something here that, we can go the distance.
It's something special. Yeah. And there's nothing better than getting that feeling. Like pre-season, there's nothing better than having that optimism. But to have it justified by having a squad that is more than competitive. I can only dream that happens in our lifetime, mate, because, you know, obviously things are looking up at the moment with the squad, and it's exciting times. But to genuinely have, like, go into a season with the genuine feeling that we can realistically win this, that must be the most exciting, mad time imaginable as a Villa fan, because that's what you want. You know, the last time we won something, it was 96. You know, just to see us win something would be incredible. And there's people of our generation above ours that not only saw that, but you know, like, I'll pose to you, really, you know, if you had the option of winning the league or winning the European Cup, because ultimately this is what we're gonna review game by game, pretty much. But I mean, I'll tell you where I stand. I think maybe it's because I'm a season ticket holder, maybe because I watch every home game. But winning the league, for me, it's almost like sustained enjoyment over the course of a year. It's prolonged. You're like, week by week, your excitement's getting bigger. Now, obviously, 82 is the greatest moment in our history, like undoubtedly. But for me as a fan, like that's a one-off, one game, absolute madness. Like the scenes in the Stadion de Kuip in Rotterdam, like, limbs all over the shop. Honestly, limbs everywhere. But I don't know, for sustained happiness, what do you say, legal?
It's funny you mention this, because this is the exact reason why I've come back to this season as our first season of the podcast, looking at the league title win. Because for me, you don't get the European Cup without winning the league. And the difference is before the Champions League and all the nonsense we get now, and they're changing it now to more of a league system as well in the Champions League. Exactly, it's nonsense. So the idea is you are the champions of your country. You won that title. You are there saying, we're the best in our country. You're the best in your country. Let's play and see who's the best overall. And now it's about who's accrued the most money and kept themselves as a, air quotes, big club. Because we could, as the Villa, finish fourth next season, let's say, by some miracle, and then we've got to win the Champions League. It's going to be amazing. Yes, am I going to, lose my head? Totally. And get, Steven Gerrard tattooed onto my face. The truth is, it won't feel as good as that league title win. I mean, look at Liverpool themselves. They won but they won the Champions League in Gerrard's time. But it was the title they wanted. They wanted to be champions of England.
I think it does help that they've won it, 6 times or whatever it is that they keep on reminding us.
I mean, I've got you that. But they've won the league a lot, like 18 times.
Yeah, absolutely. But for that generation of fans that have never seen them win it, because the last time they won it was 1990, so that was about the time I was only getting into football, really, as a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, and so I could understand that, but I mean, it's worth considering, because, like you say, with the Champions League reforms now, whatever that might be, like if there was to be a place for Villa, I'm not going to turn my nose up at it and say, oh no, we're too good for that. We want to win our league before we get in there. Of course not. Football's moved on, but it just must have been so incredibly exciting. To go pretty much consecutive years, win the league, win the European Cup. Last year really much better than that. So, Super Cup as well.
I mean, and that said, though, I mean, I think every Villa fan and fans of most clubs that aren't those top few, and even them, I mean, you ask a Man U fan now, they're starting to harken back to the glory years. That's years
I know.
For them.
I know. My heart bleeds from it. Really does.
Well,
it really does.
Different ball game completely. But for most, certainly Villa fans, having come back up from getting down to the 3rd division, going back to the top division, winning league cups, then going on to win the league title itself. And again, I mean, I've mentioned before about Ipswich and their good run. We finished 7th, 8th, and 8th in the build up to to the league title season. So we were just middle of the road. So there's no way that everyone's looking at us as potential league title winners. So therefore, that squad that has been built over years and bit by bit incrementally has made improvements, and that Saunders himself knows so well and thinks, right, I've got lads here who can do the job. The fans maybe thought, on our day, we won the League Cup a handful of years ago. There's still a good bit of that squad that have developed since then, and we've added to it. Maybe we can have a good go at it. But like you say, I think that excitement can't be beat. And I think the fact it might have felt like it was out of left field must make it that little bit sweeter, almost more like a Leicester.
Yeah, it sounds like that. I think that achievement from Leicester was, well, I'd hate to say it's a once in a lifetime, because ultimately, what else is there to look forward to? You know, you'd like it to happen again, but with the financial disparity that Leicester have, that I don't think that can be matched in terms of, or comparable. But certainly, I mean, if you think about, you know, pre-season, all the major papers and pundits and BBC, BT, and 442 magazine, they always have their predicted league table. And I don't know why. Like, it's probably the one time that I buy 442 now. I used to subscribe to it and read it all the time, but what with kids and stuff, you'll probably only have one a season, and it's always going to be the pre-season one. And the reason is, you look at the pre-season table and straight away you think, what is he on about, or what are they on about? She doesn't know this. What 15th, and yet, funnily enough, we're pretty much 15th this year. We're 15th, 14th, something like that. I don't even know. But yeah, if we think about transporting those websites and all that sort of stuff back to August 1980, how many would put Villa in the top four, let alone top dog? Barely any, maybe. Yeah. So it just makes it exciting.
It does indeed, and this is why, as we go, it's exciting to go through match by match now, or a few matches at a time, and then review where we are on the league table and think, and look at who was there. So we'll start from the next episode, actually, which is quite nice. We're starting to segue into our ending, to our closure, because that is our squad. We will look at our first starting lineup when we return, and we'll start with the first couple of games of that season. All the excitement starts now. We're going to get into the podcast proper, as it were, from the next episode. Now we know who our players are, what our squad is. You're excited. I can tell. You're talking about pre-season. You're talking about those nerves, that excitement.
Buzzing.
I'm feeling it. Buzzing.
Got my ticket for Warsaw Saturday. So yeah, buzzing.
True. Yeah, season starts now. Right. Af, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't wait for the next one.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on, buddy. And thanks for your interactions and what you've been able to add today. It's really made it different. We've been talking for nearly an hour, so that's good going. It's the longest one yet.
That's decent. I mean, you can edit that down to a good 5 minutes. So,
well, if I just cut all your bits out,
cut all your bits out. Just pretty much keep it to, squad, name, age, position. Done. Next. Exactly. They don't care about my Scottish accents. Put it that way. Right.
Comments.
I'll love you and leave you. All the best. Let's see you next time. Scenes.
Appreciate your time, Math. Cheers. See you now. You have been listening to the How Aston Villa Won podcast. Remember to subscribe and follow us on Twitter and Instagram.